I was murdered. Not metaphorically, though betrayal had carved its own wounds deep enough. I mean literally, a blade between my shoulder blades at our family's annual charity gala. My stepsister Selina's voice, the last thing I heard as she whispered, "This life was always meant to be mine." The peculiar thing about death is how it clarifies everything. In those final moments, as my blood pooled on Italian marble, I understood with crystalline clarity how I'd arrived there. A lifetime of being molded into the perfect victim, the compliant daughter, the invisible wife. But the universe, it seems, occasionally indulges in irony. I opened my eyes to familiar surroundings, my childhood bedroom, gauzy curtains filtering morning light, the cloying sweetness of Selina's signature rose perfume lingering in the air. My hands, whole, unmarked, alive, trembled as I touched my face. The date on my phone confirmed my impossible reality. I had returned to the day our parents would announce our engagement arrangements. As if summoned by fate's cruel sense of timing, Selina burst through my door, eyes wild with the same desperate hunger I remembered too well. "I want to marry Damien," she declared, her voice pitched high with hysteria. "Not Ethan, I want Damien." In that moment, I realized we had both been granted this impossible gift. But where I saw opportunity for justice, she saw only another chance to grasp what she believed she deserved. The irony was exquisite. Our original fates had been carefully orchestrated by our parents. Selina, with her theatrical beauty and performative charm, was betrothed to Ethan Cross, CEO of the nation's most successful conglomerate, heir to old money and older power. I was arranged to marry Damien Sterling, whose family's wealth was newer, flashier, but ultimately more fragile. Selina had crowed about her superior match at every opportunity. She would be the queen of the business world, she declared, envied and adored. Her wedding would be featured in magazines. Her life would be a fairy tale. But Selina never understood that crowns must be earned, not simply worn. She approached her marriage to Ethan like a role in a play, all dramatic gestures and no substance. She threw lavish parties that bled money, bought designer everything with the casual cruelty of someone who had never known want, and treated Ethan's dignified, old-fashioned mother like a servant to be dismissed. Within months, the Cross family, who valued discretion, charity, and genuine accomplishment, regarded her as an embarrassment. Ethan, a man who prized intelligence and integrity above all else, watched his wife's performance with growing disgust. Their marriage became a cold war, fought in charity galas and board meetings, each public appearance more strained than the last. Meanwhile, I learned what hell looked like in a penthouse apartment. Damien Sterling was a master of duality. In public, he was the devoted husband, bringing me roses, praising my intelligence, playing the role of supportive partner with Oscar-worthy commitment. Behind closed doors, he revealed his true nature, a psychological predator who fed on control and fear. He never hit me where it would show. His cruelty was surgical, precise. He destroyed my confidence with calculated criticism, isolated me from friends with manufactured emergencies, and slowly dismantled my sense of self until I existed only as an extension of his will. I became a ghost in my own life, speaking only when spoken to, smiling on command, performing the role of the perfect wife while dying inside. Selina saw only the performance, the flowers, the public praise. The designer clothes he bought me like costumes for his personal theater. Her envy was a living thing, consuming her from within. She didn't see the fear in my eyes during family dinners, didn't notice how I flinched when he touched me, couldn't recognize the careful choreography of abuse. All she saw was what she thought she wanted, the spotlight, the attention, the fairy tale romance that existed only in her imagination. "Are you certain about that choice, Selina?" I asked, my voice steady as she ranted about her divine right to Damien's affections. Her eyes flashed with triumph. "I'll surpass Ethan, you'll see. When his company dominates the market, I'll be the one everyone envies. Not you, never you again." "Never me?" "Darling sister, You never understood. I was never your competition. I was your cautionary tale. Our father initially protested the switch. The Sterling family, while wealthy, lacked the Cross dynasty's stability and reputation. But Selina had perfected the art of the tantrum, and she deployed it with nuclear intensity. She spoke of prophetic dreams and visions of future success, spinning elaborate fantasies about Damien's inevitable triumph over Ethan's empire. Father, who had always been more charmed by Selina's dramatics than impressed by my quiet competence, eventually capitulated. Mother, my stepmother, supported anything that made her biological daughter happy. So Damien was reassigned to Selina, and Ethan's family, who had always preferred my temperament anyway, redirected their proposal to me. I accepted with grace and steel-edged determination. This time I would not be a victim. This time I would be a victor. Selina's wedding was a masterpiece of expensive dysfunction. She demanded a gown hand-sewn by Milan's most exclusive atelier, then screamed when the Belgian lace wasn't the precise shade of moonlit pearl she had envisioned. The venue, a restored chateau that Damien's parents had booked at considerable expense, nearly canceled the event when she insisted the century-old gardens be replanted overnight to match her color scheme. She arrived 90 minutes late, claiming the photographers hadn't captured her best angles during the preparation shots. Her vows were a soliloquy of self-worship. I know I was born to rule beside greatness, and I deserve every beautiful thing this world can offer. Damien smiled, but his eyes held the cold calculation I recognized from my previous life. Even then, watching from the guests section beside my fiancé Ethan, I could see the fractures forming in Selina's perfect fantasy. The reception devolved into barely contained chaos. Damien, overwhelmed by his bride's theatrical demands and his parents' mounting horror, drank too much and flirted openly with a bridesmaid. Selina, in retaliation, danced inappropriately with groomsmen and berated the catering staff loudly enough for neighboring tables to hear. The air crackled, with performative joy masking very real contempt. I watched it all with the serene satisfaction of a chess master, observing an opponent's inevitable blunders. Because unlike my previous life, this time I held all the crucial pieces. In my first life, I had been Damien's greatest asset, my family connections, my inside knowledge of Ethan's business strategies, my access to confidential information that I had naively shared with my husband. Damien had built his early success on insider trading, corporate espionage, and strategic manipulation, all facilitated through my unwitting cooperation. This time, I kept those secrets locked away. More than that, I began to orchestrate his downfall with the same methodical precision he had once used to break my spirit. Anonymous tips reached his competitors about upcoming Sterling initiatives. Journalists received carefully curated packages of evidence, documenting his unethical practices. Regulatory agencies found themselves in possession of damning financial records that painted a clear picture of fraud and market manipulation. I was a ghost in the machine, invisible but omnipresent, pulling strings from the shadows while maintaining the perfect facade of the devoted fiancé to Ethan. As Damien's empire crumbled, his true nature emerged for all to see. Without me as his emotional punching bag, he redirected his rage towards Selina. Their private arguments became public spectacles. Videos leaked of him screaming at her in restaurant parking lots, of her throwing objects at him in hotel lobbies. The Sterling family, who had built their reputation on careful public relations, watched in horror as their son and daughter-in-law became tabloid fodder. They cut financial ties. Investors fled. Employees quit in droves, taking damaging stories to the press. Selina, who had married for a crown, found herself ruling over ruins. She went from couture to clearance racks, from champagne galas to unemployment lines. Her fair-weather friends evaporated like morning mist. The paparazzi, who once documented her glamorous lifestyle, now captured her meltdowns outside luxury stores where her credit cards were declined. In a particularly memorable voicemail, one I may have anonymously provided to a gossip blogger, she shrieked, "They're all jealous of my natural radiance. Damien is only struggling because of cosmic interference. This is sabotage. Even in destruction, she refused to look inward. While Selena's world imploded, mine flourished. Ethan Cross was everything Damien Sterling pretended to be. Genuinely kind, intellectually curious, emotionally mature. He noticed my startled responses to sudden movements, my tension when voices were raised, my carefully controlled reactions to physical touch. But instead of exploiting these vulnerabilities, he simply waited. He gave me space to heal, time to trust, room to become myself again. "You're safe with me," he said one evening, after I had flinched away from his hand during a movie. "Always. And if you're not ready for something, just tell me. We have all the time in the world." His mother, Eleanor Cross, was a formidable woman who had built her own successful nonprofit empire while raising 3 children and supporting her husband's political career. She saw through my careful composure to the steel beneath and declared me exactly what this family needs within a week of our engagement. Our wedding was everything Selena's had pretended to be. Elegant, meaningful, genuinely joyful. No tantrums, no drama, no desperate grasping for attention. Just 2 people promising to build something beautiful together, surrounded by family and friends who actually cared about our happiness rather than our performance. The Cross business empire, instead of suffering from my influence, grew stronger. I brought strategic thinking honed by survival, creativity forged by necessity, and an understanding of human nature learned through the hardest possible lessons. Ethan and I became true partners, in business and in life. We had 2 daughters, brilliant, fierce girls, who would never know what it meant to make themselves small for anyone's comfort. Selena never accepted defeat gracefully. She attempted to seduce Ethan at various social functions, showing up uninvited in increasingly desperate outfits, manufacturing chance encounters, even cornering him in parking garages with tearful pleas about what could have been. He looked through her as if she were made of glass, his polite dismissals cutting deeper than any anger could have. She tried to sabotage my business ventures through anonymous threats, fake scandals, and amateur hacking attempts. I traced each attack back to her with the ease of someone who had learned to recognize her particular brand of chaos. The evidence I provided to authorities was thorough and damning. In her final, most pathetic gambit, she faked a pregnancy to trap a desperate investor looking for a young, attractive wife. When the deception was revealed, he sued her for fraud and defamation. The case made national headlines, complete with testimony about her history of manipulation and lies. When Damien was finally arrested for financial crimes and domestic violence charges, brought by 3 different women, Selena went down as his accomplice. The footage of her arrest was spectacular. Hair wild, makeup streaming down her face, screaming about conspiracy theories and stolen destinies as she was loaded into a police car. The psychiatric evaluation that followed painted a picture of someone so disconnected from reality that she genuinely believed the world owed her adoration simply for existing. Selena resides now in a comfortable facility where she receives the best possible care. I ensured that, despite everything, not out of love, but because even she deserves basic human dignity. Her delusions persist. The staff tell me she spends hours explaining to anyone who will listen how her life was stolen by jealous forces beyond her control. She never asks to see me. I think in whatever remains of her rational mind, she knows that I know the truth. She was never a victim of circumstance. She was the architect of her own destruction, a woman so blinded by envy that she chose poison over growth, rage over reflection. I sleep peacefully now, in a home filled with love and laughter. My daughters asleep in their beds, my husband's arm around me, surrounded by the life I built from the ashes of the one I was forced to endure. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty about my role in her downfall. Then I remember the blade between my shoulder blades, her final words about stolen lives, and I realize I didn't destroy Selena. I simply stopped enabling her to destroy me. This time, I didn't just survive the game. This time, I changed the rules entirely, and I won.